internet land. Here we are, June the 1st of 2020. Weird times in Sweden because it's actually warm today, and I've been out, which means I also have a tan. I also have bought a very cool, or not so cool, LED light because I'm taking this internet broadcasting extremely seriously. Well, actually, I do, because today I really felt, should I really even do this? Because I felt tired and stuff. But then I fell asleep watching raccoon clips on YouTube, woke up by a loud raccoon clip, and here we are. It's not as bad as it sounds. Just, some days, because it feels like it's a fucking eternal, at least to me, it feels like we're living in an eternal Tuesday, and some Tuesdays are just more Tuesdays than others. In any case, here we are, we're live, and I see that so are you. There are people about, which is nice. I'm not sure if I have a chat going, and those who've been following this enormously advanced live stream service by NETHERBIRD Streaming Corporation knows that I'm extremely pro, and hence I'm awesome at following also this multitasking thing by talking, saying extremely smart things, and at the same time interacting flawlessly with the audience. But I will say hello. So this is what I do. And as you might also have seen or experienced during these sessions, there is a lag, and it depends. Sometimes it's 10 seconds, sometimes it's 20 seconds from when I say stuff to when you actually hear it, because it's going through. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's because it's rendered and it's not real-time transmission, so it turns into some sort of web stream rather than a real-time stream. So I guess it's somewhere there, and it seems to be hard to change that. So we'll have to just live with it. In any case, it's good to see you guys, and I am doing well despite my complaints. Raccoon clips on YouTube has made my life, of course, much more pleasant than it used to be. And I guess we all find our way to sort of pass time, because it's getting tedious. I think this is my 12th or 13th week that I sort of semi-isolated, because I work from home and I spend most of my time at home. But now it's more and more I get away from this awful state where everything was just chaotic. What is happening? What am I doing? To more of a normality. And in that normality, I'm starting to do stuff again. So I've been currently writing what will eventually be the 6th or the 7th full-length album of NETHERBIRD, because eventually we'll start making that, and that means that eventually I will need words to scream, and I like to be prepared in the sense that I write a lot of lyrics, and then whatever gets used, and also some stuff is didn't get used on the last album, might get used on this, or might end up somewhere. So actually I have like a growing box of texts, and then each album tends to be its own individual. So some lyrics just fit together with the music I hear, and they tend to end up on the album. And other stuff I might like, but they weren't so usable, so then they get pushed forward to the next one. I will not sit here by myself rambling, not today either. I will be joined later on by a very old friend of mine, Zorn, who runs a band called Zornheym. He does a lot of other stuff too, and he's a very creative guy. So I will see how he spends this time and what he's up to with his various projects. And yeah, in general, it's been actually a long time. I said hello to him earlier today because we tested the technology. But other than that, it's been actually years since we spoke. So we'll see if we have mutual ground stuff. And I know that my streams have been ending up on various different places on Facebook because it's a little bit tricksy to do it consistently. But hopefully everybody who's looking for it will find it. And I will keep doing these transmissions from the center of the pest capital, Stockholm, for some time being. And I'll do it Mondays, 20 to 21 Swedish time. And that is different times depending on where you live, obviously. But if I do it consistently, then it's easier to calculate, I suppose. Feel free to write in the chat if there is something you are interested in. Everyone is also welcome to post in the events that I make for each of these things. Also, Gekai, good to see you again. And it's interesting because it feels like I'm getting to know some of you who seems to be drifting around in these streams now and then. I have beverage because I'm an adult and I keep myself hydrated, and that's very important. And there's a lot to be said about beverages in Sweden. In Sweden, we're a nation of very thirsty people, and I think most people who know Scandinavia or know Sweden or the Nordics or Russia knows that this is a region where we favor alcohol contents in the beverages, and sometimes we prefer it a lot. So to the degree actually that the Swedish state is skeptical to hello Jane, hello Patrick, to just letting Swedes go at it any way we want. So you can't buy wine or strong liquor or even strong beers in an ordinary shop because obviously Swedes can't handle that. And sometimes I wonder if we could, but in any case we can't. So if you go to the local supermarket and buy beer, there are like 3 levels of beers in Sweden. We have the light beer, which is basically water in which we pretend there is alcohol. And then we have the strong beer, which is like normal beer in the rest of the world, which is 4.5% of alcohol and up. And those you can only buy at Systembolaget, which is this monopoly shop where you can buy alcohol. But there is this in-between beer called the people's beer, Folköl. And that's what I'm drinking. And that is a maximum of 3.5%. So actually you can buy almost any beer, but they will be in a weaker form. And this is why we have such a great heavy metal music export, because it's hard to get too drunk on them, actually. And so I think that is why Swedish metal bands, despite drinking a lot of beers, can still create music, because basically the beer is too weak to stop us. That is also why tours can become complicated, because we drink as if it was the same beer, and it's not. And the life becomes really good. So people's beer, now you heard it. That's one of the secrets behind the Swedish metal phenomena, because it makes us hydrated, yet still lucid enough to create music. But I did get some questions. And since I am extremely fluent and doing advanced and smart broadcasts like this, I haven't actually prepared so much the answers, because that would be cheating. But I will get to it. But first, Jane, is that why Danish band sucks? Because we can buy beer in the shops? Rolling on the floor laughing. Well, you're rolling on the floor laughing because you're drunk, as most Danish people are all the time. Swedes know this. It's undisputed facts from the Science and Truth Foundation that Danish people are always drunk. But Swedes, we are no. Yes, I wouldn't take it to the level where I say that Danish music sucks, because that would be to say that Artillery or Merciful Fate or King Diamond sucks, which would be a lie. So actually, I think Ill Disposed stuff. I think the Danish actually are getting better and better. I think I hear just today I saw, I can't remember which band it was now, but it was black metal that I thought was actually really good and Danish. And so it used to be quite safe to say that Sweden had, and Norway, we had a lot of, Sweden had a lot of good death and black metal bands and stuff, but it's not that easy anymore, because they are like sort of like mushrooms shooting up everywhere. Like, for instance, Iceland. It was easy to know that Iceland was, a place of, Viking heritage and puffins and volcanoes that they really can't seem to handle, because they explode and stop traffic of aircrafts. And then all of a sudden we're flooded by these extremely fucking talented bands. I mean, Mistirfing, Auden, and they just keep coming. It is phenomenal. And I think in Iceland you can buy proper beer in the store. I am not sure, and there is no Icelandic people here to defend their honor and to tell me I'm right or wrong. The Swedish-Danish rivalry goes way back into history, and Sweden has been trying to fuck Denmark up for hundreds of years, and vice versa, and we've been doing it consistently. But in the end, it turns out that the Swedes became the cold and stiff people, and the Danish, the sort of more happy-go-lucky people. We're sort of the same, but Denmark seems to be a bit more easygoing, a little bit more lager beer for lunch and stuff. It is difficult to say these days where Denmark and Sweden are musically. But I would say it seems like maybe my truth about the folköl being the explanation is not the only explanation, but it's part of it. Swedish people are lagom, except for alcohol intake. There is never lagom. There's always until I'm wasted and half dead, says Isabel. And since I know that you're German, you are monitoring the Swedish behavior with German precision. And yes, it's true. We are very much the middle ground people when it comes to everything, politics, view of the world. We're quite moderate in all senses of it. But then we drink and then we go all in. Because I guess every nation needs some place where they go totally apeshit. And in Sweden, that seems to be normally on the drinking. And people's beer can save us, but not all the way. Yeah, true. I had a question that was sent in, but feel free to join the multimedia chat here. It's a question regarding, and I will read it up and I will see if I can answer it as we go along. And bear with me and feel free to tell me I'm wrong and stuff. Underground, yeah, what is that really? And then there are some like by questions, because I've been telling you that I play underground metal music. But what is that really? What constitutes underground in comparison to above ground, which would be, mainstream or at least commercially successful? is it automatically credible if a band is underground? I have to think on that a bit. Is it always better to be underground than to be, say, mainstream? Where I come from this niched extreme metal. Yeah, then it was always bad to be commercially successful. If that was because the music actually turned into shit, or if it was just that we became envious. That's a good question. I'd say the music I like personally, which is crude extreme metal, mostly death or black metal, or in some cases thrash, it can never be commercially successful because then it has become something I really don't like as much. Maybe too melodic or stuff. The music I like, I've never seen any bands do that and become hugely successful in a commercial sense. But then we come to this. This is a risky thing that I'm doing now because I'm trying to answer a question without really have thought it through. Then we have to think, what are underground bands and when are they no longer underground bands? And the first band I come to think of, and I can just see here, okay, so here's, is it always a choice to be underground, or is it more that you're not known yet? And more, can it be bad? And then it happens, what happens when a band gets too much success, as for instance Behemoth, or that Vetain got a Grammys in 2011. That's some example. And I think, to me, Behemoth springs to mind as the most commercially successful extreme underground metal band in many years. And I would say they've come to the level where they might not be possible to consider them underground anymore. Still extreme raw, but they are touring with Slipknot and selling out, or pulling big crowds, touring with even bigger bands, and hence playing arenas, to the level where they are at, where I could say also maybe Morbid Angel are. I don't say a band becomes bad just by reaching that level, but in order to reach that level, I think they, in my book, have started to compromise in a way that I might not personally love the most. But it's hard. Vetain, however, in my book, is way more underground than Behemoth, despite maybe having similar success. I will Grammys and Grammy awards, whatnot. I don't think that matters because you can't really help that you get nominated or that you win. That's not your fault as a musician. Some journalists band together and say, "Wow, we fucking like this shit," and as a musician, you want people to like your shit, to think and appreciate what you did. And if you reach the level where you get a Grammy without compromising on your artistic vision, then you I don't think you have to sort of be sorry about that, or you cannot be accused of winning that. That's the a result of being perhaps credible or perhaps commercially successful. But why do I think Behemoth is maybe no longer an underground band while I think Vetain is? I would say it boils down to how these bands act. I don't know the Vetain guys, and even that I'm Swedish, I don't know them personally. Come across them a few times, but I would say they are not trying to be or reaching out to become popular. That has always, I think, been somebody else's making. I do not see them as Instagramming a lot to sort of please various social media requirements, or touring with bands that are not as credible as themselves. While as Behemoth obviously has decided to tour with bands that are commercially much more successful and hence reaching new audiences. So I can see there, but I don't know Nergal either. I actually have a lot of respect also for him and his artistic vision, but I get the feeling that Behemoth might be right on the verge of becoming a more commercially successful band. But however, I couldn't say that it feels like they've been compromising the artistic vision to go there. It's sort of not really. And this last cover they made with Niklas from Shining, that's anything but commercial. So maybe it is also the fact that Nergal feels that they might be on the way where they lose their underground connection and are working to ensure that it doesn't happen. So, but those bands are, at least Bethane, for me, and I'm fine if anybody has, you know, a different opinion, but to me they are still absolutely underground because they are like unyielding, uncompromising, and doing their thing, and they are also still to a degree unpolished and don't give a fuck, to the level where, you know, they seem to be okay with it being complicated to book them because they are not there to be a sort of easygoing entertainment. They do their thing on their own, following their own agenda. But am I so simple as to think that as soon as something, I think like this, I loved Metallica up until they released the Black Album, and that became extremely successful. But I didn't like it before they became successful. I didn't like that album at all because I thought it was a musical direction that did not speak to me. These days I can understand it better, but I was 16 or 17 when 16 when I heard it, and to me I felt betrayed when I put that CD on. It was CD in that time, because I felt it was nothing what I loved about Metallica, because I felt they were, you know, these underdogs and stuff, and they played harsh, aggressive music, and all of a sudden there were ballads and stuff. Now I can appreciate it, but hey, I'm older. That was a typical case where it's hard to leave the underground and remain credible. But if you were never underground to begin with, if you were playing, you know, pop music with integrity, then I can still like it. I think the problem is if you were something and then you evolve out of it, then like for me it loses something. But it might also be because I guess what attracted me to extreme metal in the very beginning was that it was just sort of a musical underdogish, you know, genre. It was never meant to be enjoyed by everyone, and I felt it spoke to me, maybe partly at least because it was sort of obscure. Today it is not very obscure. It's just okay, fewer people listen to it, but if you have Spotify you can easily access extreme metal just as well as you can listen to Avicii. So today it's not such a success to get your filthy little teen hands on an album that it used to be. So for me, those were, you know, precious stones that I found by walking through the wilderness, and hence, if everybody had them, I think it would have lost its appeal. But to me, I think still, to sort of try to summarize what I'm saying here is that if you started out underground and you play a certain kind of music, then I don't think you can be anything but underground, because if you become anything but underground, you have actually changed so much of your music. So then I might not like it anymore. Case being, for instance, Metallica. They were huge, but still sort of underground-ish. But the jury is out when it comes to Behemoth, because I am not sure where they are heading. Because at the same time, they still seem to stick by their artistic vision, and I can't, blame them for being successful. Maybe it's just me being Swedish. I don't want people to be too successful, because then it's not special enough for me. The question is really good, and I will need to think about it a little bit. But I would hope I don't like music because it's underground. I like music that happens to be underground. But 17-year-old me might have been different, and he might have been saying that if it's too many that listen to it, I don't give a fuck if it's good. I won't like it anyway. I'll find something else more obscure, because I am not like everybody else. Yeah. It's confession time. I'll get back to that question, because I really liked it, actually. I really liked it. But I need to think more about it. And that's a good question. Feel free to post your thoughts on, underground. Does it have to be underground? Is it good if it's underground, if it's bad? To me, it's always good if it's underground. That's a good start. Because if too many people like it, I might be against it just because, I'm a cranky person. But those who follow this excellent streaming media experience might have known or experienced that I did speak a little bit about saxophones. And this, I will have to unsuper backs green screen thingy. I will have to. This is the forgive me part. In any case, when I was like 18 years old, this is what I painted. No, actually, it wasn't. This is stuff. When I turned 30, my mom framed some really, really interesting and, of course, extremely skillful drawings that I did as a kid. I hope I wasn't too old. But I like drums, many toms, and other instruments. Fuck knows really what it is. But I have to. This is a fucking saxophone. I painted a saxophone player when I was, a kid. This is a bassist, and I remember painting the bassist because it's like a grim-looking bass and a flower on the head, which is like wild and crazy if you're 5 years old. But I painted a saxophone, so I guess me being aggressive towards the saxophone as an instrument is sort of, I'm just compensating for some weird shit where I sort of praised it as a kid. So now I come clean. My slate is not clean when it comes to the saxophone. I seem to have held high regards of that instrument. So I sort of, if I were a politician and a journalist would find that, I'd be fucked, because I've been a hypocrite. But maybe I am a hypocrite, but I'm an honest hypocrite. So I'm dehypocritifying myself by saying I actually found evidence against myself in the basement, and now I shared it on the internet, and hence I have dismantled the bomb before it blew up in my face. I will read the chat a little bit. Perhaps you start a support band to become one day headliner band, and then they have the support band. So why not? Some bands never make it, and some choose it. Blah blah blah. Yeah, Isabel, I agree. And I mean, fuck, if a band sticks to their guns, do their stuff, and become successful, I hope I would still like them. That I wouldn't be such a fucked up little weird person that I stopped liking them just because they are too popular. But I am afraid I might, because I might be a hypocrite there as well. But I hope I didn't, because if the music is great, then it shouldn't matter. If they haven't, you know, turned their back on everything, like Sisters of Mercy did when they were said, you know, we hate goth, or Andrew said, yeah, I hate goths, I blah blah blah, and that's, you know, a shame when all your fans are like goths. So as long as they stay true to what they do, just like, you know, if you win a Grammy, it's not your fault. It's because people appreciate what you did, and hence that's a cool thing. Greetings from Portugal. Thanks for another awesome interview. Blah blah blah. Hi, Roy, Paulo, Necronos. It's good to see that you are here, and I really like the fact that you are promoting and pushing extreme metal all over the world. People like you rule. People like me, we just whore on the fact that there are people like you spreading the news about great bands, and you are unrelenting, my friend. So cheers to you. I need to have a beer, sip of beer, and then I need also to invite my guest. So bear with me on this one, because now I will send an internet link through the internets, and anything can happen. Bum, 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 bum. But since I'm singing, I'm sort of keeping you busy, so you don't know really how slow. Because I'm not succeeding, am I? No, I'm not. Because with me today is, like I said, an old acquaintance of mine, old friend. We will talk about it soon, but we met more than 10 years ago. And he used to be part of a band that now have their third guest in this little talk session, and that's Devian. But I will admit Mr. Zorn into the thing, and here we are, and you are in San Francisco, which is surprising.
Cheers, my
Cheers.
friend.
How are you?
I'm fine. I've been sitting here watching your live stream.
Yeah, it was epic today. I really felt it. I'm really hitting gold today. But what's your take on this underground stuff? I think you're a little bit more of a modern person than me. I'm afraid. I'm afraid I don't like bands that are no longer underground. What's your take on it? Are Behemoth underground these days, do you think?
I guess I'm more of the opinion that as long as it's good music, I like it.
Yeah.
The thing I can have a problem with is when bands blow up and everyone is trying to really, you know, you should check this out.
Yeah, I know. I guess I was like, no.
Then for some reason I sit on it, and I might wait, you know, like 6 months or something like that to check the band out. Yeah, it's the same thing, you know, that people are doing with they're checking out release radar on Spotify, and I'm like, no computer is going to tell me what I'm going to listen to. I'm very picky with that.
Yeah.
But you know, if a good friend like you, or you know, someone else that I trust recommends something, then of course I'm going to check it out. But I'm not going to check something out just because a lot of people are posting on it on their social media or something like that. But to come back to your question about Behemoth, I think I'm with you there, that they are moving away from the underground, but that doesn't necessarily is a bad thing.
No, I mean, if you want to live from the music, then I guess, I mean, then you can't be sustained by 300 old metalheads. That, I mean, you need to. So I mean, every musician. This is hard. This is why the question is so fucking good, because every musician wants to reach as many people as possible without compromising their vision, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you want everyone to enjoy your latest album just because it's good music.
Yeah.
And not because you have had a star producer or a star mixer saving your half-assed songs.
Yeah, I mean, but and at the same time, I'm pretty sure Nurgle wasn't sitting down one day with Orion and other boys. It's like, I think we're gonna go mainstream. We are gonna fucking be, we're gonna change this and that in order to please people. Fuck no. I mean, of course not. I mean, you evolve, and we all take in what people say and write. And I mean, if we do something which is maybe too commercial, we might change back a little bit. I see a little bit of that tendency now, because I heard a new song this Friday, because I listened to Release Radar, whatever, and that sounded like something out of The Satanist, which was, that's anything but commercial. So and also, I mean, great musicians will always surprise you, I guess. So Nurgle is without a doubt such a musician who has the capability of surprising everyone. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that I outthought Nurgle. I have no fucking idea. I mean, that guy, he is a genius. That's what he does. I mean, so yeah.
He is really good. And for Behemoth, I think they have been touring, and they have been keep putting out good music, and then eventually you're gonna come out from the underground. I mean, they have played so many shows. They have done so many years on the road, where they've been playing for everything from 30 to several thousand of people. And eventually if you stick to it and you have a great support around you, you are gonna start selling albums.
And like I said, I mean, it would be shit if that wasn't allowed. Because I mean, I mean, okay, I'm sorry. People actually like my shit. I still do the best music I can, and now people like it. And some dude in Sweden is now disliking my music. Oh, I cannot sleep at night anymore because Nephente is offended. Well, fuck that guy, I suppose. But in any case, good to see you again. And I will just say,
good to see you too.
Hello, Ellen, from France as well. Oui, Chopin, je ne sais pas. Well, in any case, how are you doing? And because we are doing have you realized there is like a pandemic going on?
I've realized that it hasn't really affected my life that much, since I work in a school. And in Sweden, the schools haven't shut down really. So for me, it's been business as usual. It's been taking a little bit longer for the kids to come in from their breaks, because everyone has to go and wash their hands. And I mean, other than that, it's been I mean, my work life hasn't really changed. Socially, it hasn't really changed that much either.
Are you Swedish?
I'm Swedish, and I have a small kid, and socializing, it's not really happening.
No.
Anyways, but I'm really looking forward to see some nice people like you, and that's why I didn't even hesitated on joining you today, because it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting normal, but I met another friend just this past Friday, and I just felt I'm not used to meeting people, and I sort of I felt I was stressed, but I wasn't. I mean, I was just unused to it. It felt not so good, actually, to realize that I fucked up the little social skills I had, they are gone because I'm dwelling in solitude. Well, whatever. But it's good to see you. And
Good to
tell
see you
me,
too.
I mean, you're obviously people who are here and people who will watch this will know you from your your main band is Zornheym. Can you tell
Yes.
me a little bit, because I've been we've been in contact from the very beginning when you started this concept.
Yeah.
Can you get people up to speed a little bit? What is Zornheym? Who are you, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm Zorn of Zornheym, the creator of the band. It's actually an idea that's been dwelling in my head for my early 20s, my mid 20s, that I wanted to do like this huge concept band that was going to revolve around Asylum. And we've released one album called Where Hatred Dwells and Darkness Reigns. And the first album is like a pilot episode of a new series. Each song introduces you to one of the different characters that's confined in the asylum. And since we felt that, actually, I've been working on this concept for such a long time, and I've been influenced by King Diamond and Blind Guardian and all kinds of bands like that's been doing concept album. But I felt that I really wanted to go all in on the whole concept idea. Yeah. So on the first album, we actually added like the different inmates journals, the doctor journals in the booklet. And then to expand the Zornheym universe, we also worked together with a Finnish artist called Anne Bring. Her working name is Art by Bring. Her Facebook page name is Art by Bring. And she actually helped us go deeper into the background. So sorry, I'm burping because I'm drinking beer for the first time in a very long time.
That's a good thing. Burp on. This is a burping webcast. Burp, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. And then to go deeper into the concepts, we kind of did some of the different inmates' backgrounds and how they ended up in the asylum and stuff like that. So together with the album, we actually put out a graphic novel that's like 55 pages long in a A4 format. Everything like this has been so cool that we've been able to do with great help from a lot of talented and creative people that's been helping us to push this. And our first music video, we made it like some sort of short movie format of The Opposed, and your lovely wife is actually casting in it as well.
Yeah, she is.
She's working as a maid. She's playing a maid in the short movie.
It's we live a modern life, so who knows what's going on behind the scenes here. But yeah, it's true. Quite an ambitious video, actually.
Yeah, and I actually think Martin, the producer, he did an amazing job. I mean, he is by far the most dedicated and skillful video maker that I've ever worked with. Such a standout guy and amazing skills. So that's a little bit about the first album, and then to tie everything together.
But just to stop you, because musically, you guys did something when you started out. I was just about the same time Flesh God Apocalypse showed up, but I mean, you do this extreme symphonic metal, right? So I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's close, but it's in the same vein as Flesh God. I mean, it's really over the top everything, very extreme.
I personally think that Flesh God are more extreme than we are.
Maybe they are.
Yeah. At least that's my opinion about it. I guess that we try to keep it a little bit more simple, but you know, with the first album, we had a lot of ambition and stuff like that. So some of the songs turned out to be, you know, pretty long, and you know, you were so full of inspiration and you wanted to push everything in there. But I think the second album is going to be a little bit more to the point. It's going to be more melodic, more extreme. I mean, it's going to be more of everything. You know, my favorite quote is Yngve's more is more.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, it must be right if Yngve said it. I mean, he's not the one sitting here having people's beer. He has evolved, and he's definitely not underground. So yeah. But you work with, I mean, what sets you aside from a lot of bands is that you work, I mean, you work with, you know, symphonic elements, but you do it, you do them, you know, for real. I mean, you record violins, cellos, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. On the first album, we used a string orchestra from Vadstena. They were actually recording in Vadstena at the time, and they actually recorded in an old asylum in Vadstena. I mean,
of course they did.
Yeah, they got permission to record there, and I think that kind of, you know, bled through. It caught some of the ambience and the experience of the room and everything. But this time, for the second album, we're getting string people to come to the studio, Wing Studio, that we're recording in, to give more control to Sverker Widgren, that's the owner and the recording guy of Wing Studios. So, you know, then he get to put up the mics, and he can decide the room, and it's going to be the same room where we recorded the drums and the acoustic instruments and stuff like that. And then we're also using real people singing in a choir. A lot of real stuff.
Yeah,
we
but
like that.
It's cool, but it's also a lot of work. I mean,
yes,
I don't know, but I mean, how many fucking channels do you bring to the mix?
The first album we had over 350 channels.
That, I mean, just to put that in perspective, when I started out, we had 16 channels at our disposal on that tape recorder, and that was considered still, you know, pretty fucking good. So this digital era has really, you know, it given musicians the freedom to go apeshit when, you know, it comes to the number of layers. But I mean, every channel is a lot of work to fill that, you know, with, you know, a good take, nicely edited. That's a lot of stuff to to handle. So I mean, hats off also to your producer, Sverker. I mean, that's not an easy task.
No, I mean, I think he has done like such an amazing job with the first album, because I think we sound a little bit different than a lot of other symphonic metal bands that are out there. And I mean, he gave us like a pretty unique sound, and then for the fact that we're playing in standard tuning, and still he has given us such a heavy sound. And because a lot of bands today, they play on baritone instruments and stuff like that, so they're playing in B, or they have like a drop A or something like that. So just when you look on the instruments, it's gonna sound.
It is a challenge. Actually, NETHERBIRD started out on low A, but these days we do everything in standard E. Actually, we do some drop Ds. That's it.
Okay.
So I and then the challenge is different. It is a different challenge to make heavy music using not heavy tuning. It's cool. But I don't know if you can talk about it, but you guys you are well on your way to record your second album, right?
Yeah, we actually started, like I mentioned to you earlier today, we actually started recording the drums a little bit over a year ago. And last weekend we were recording all the cello and double bass for the album. And so now we have the violin and viola left. And today, Skukka, the other guitar player, he is also in charge of recording the choir stuff. He has been working on the choir section today. And I think he has worked through maybe half of the album and recorded like 2 songs with the male choir. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to mix this beast during the summer, actually, and then start looking for labels and whatnot to have people putting out the music.
Yeah, the good old procedure. But I mean, you have the first album out, and the first album is always the hardest. The second one is normally where you fuck up because you don't. I mean, the first album, that's like 5 or 10 years of ideas, and then the second one you have to sort of get it out. And so a lot of bands fuck up the second album. NETHERBIRD surely. Okay. I wouldn't say we fucked it up because people like it, but we should have put more time into it. But it seems like you guys. You took your time. I mean, you seem to be patient enough, so that's cool. But you do other stuff outside Zornheym as well. Can't you just, because first we met, it was when you were in Deviant.
Yes.
And we did a gig in May 2010. I think that was the first time we met, right?
I think so too. And I actually remember that we were talking backstage how tight you guys were.
Yeah, we were just lucky.
Yeah, but you guys did a really good show because that's what I remember, that we were talking that these guys are really nailing it.
I mean, just like you guys. I mean, some bands really. I mean, we've been ambitious as fuck from the very first day, and just like you guys, we didn't grew up together. We sort of recruited the band based on, you know, people who are actually good at their stuff. So yeah, I had a good lineup playing. But I also remember our drummer at the time, really skillful guy, Eric Reyes. He was standing just flabbergasted watching Emil, your drummer, when he was playing, because it's like, yeah, fuck, this is next beyond unbelievable. And it is. I mean, there are a few drummers who are, you know, skilled to that level where other drummers just drop everything and just stand in awe. And Emil is one of these guys. I mean, phenomenal.
And I think the good thing about Emil is that he's also very musical.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can be a really good drummer, you know, been playing how many hundreds of BPMs beyond human level, but you know, when a drummer also has some sort of musical understanding, you can do something really, really cool together. And that's why I consider Emil to be probably the best drummer that I've ever played with, because, you know, he had such a great understanding for, you know, the guitar, even though he's doing the Don Swan thing, you know, his whole when he's playing the guitar, he's holding it upside down. And
yeah, because you know,
yeah, he's a drummer, so
yeah, I mean, they're special kind of people.
yeah, and Emil is one of them. But you know, that was a huge thing with Deviant, that everyone was very musical.
Extremely gifted band. And I had the pleasure of seeing you. I mean, I saw you with Legion in Jönköping as 1,000 years ago. But yeah.
When we released God to the Ill-Fated or something like that.
It is possible. Actually, I was not sober that evening. I remember I was there with my friends. I didn't tell Jonas, the guitarist, last Monday. But I was sitting there with my friends, and some fucking douchebag walks in with, you know, sunglasses and leather jacket. And I was like, what the fuck? Look at that fucking asshole rock musician. And then he walked straight forward to me and it's like, Johan, it's been a long time. It was Jonas. I was like, yeah, fuck. Yeah. Fucking rock stars. But it was funny.
Yeah.
In any case, that was the gig when you guys, you really nailed it. That was awesome. But I also saw you when Jonas did the lead vocals. He did that on the gig we did together. And
yeah.
You guys had something there also, which was could have worked. It could have been really, really good. But alas, this is how it. I mean, Deviant has, you know, become several really successful bands since then. So maybe
I think so too.
For the greater good. And one day maybe you can reunite and do stuff. But for the time being, I mean, you're all doing really well, actually, musically.
Yeah, I think so too. And I actually watched your stream with Jonas, and it's funny because you were talking about different labels that we were looking into to release the third album with. And I think this is one of my greatest rock stars moments in my life, because one of the labels that we were looking into was the label that you had at one point. And we were sitting in a bar in Stockholm.
Kelly's.
Yeah, Kelly's. Yeah, we can do some advertising here because it's a great place. We were sitting there talking, and then, you know, they cranked up the volume so we couldn't really hear each other. So we were leaning towards each other, screaming our lungs out. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I know this song. And my girlfriend at the time, you know, she was leaning over to me and she told me, it's Deviant.
Yeah.
and they actually played the Opposed in a random bar in Stockholm when we were talking about eventually releasing the album on your label, and I think that's such a great story.
It is a great story, and I mean, and this is how the underground is. I mean, it's small, but it works, and we're still in contact. And this is also the underground, and I think this is the part of the underground what I don't want to miss out on it by this mainstream stuff. It's that we still care about the music, we still network with each other, and we still sort of want each other to reach as many people as possible. I mean, I do these talks not because I have to, but because I really want to. I want people to. I mean, first off, I want people to feel less lonely, or being entertained, whatever. But I also want them to really listen to other bands that I like and people that I know are just as hardworking as me, because I think there is a wealth of music out there, and Spotify and these other areas, you can't find it.
It's like looking for your favorite drop of water in
the ocean.
In the ocean.
Yeah, actually, you dropped your little alcohol into a lake, and now you have to drink the entire lake to get your alcohol, and it's a tough job.
It used to be here.
Exactly. I really like that alcohol, but it's like Rui says that there's so many hardworking bands out there, and even in the underground, I mean, you have the bands that no one ever hears about, and then you have even if you're successful, you're still not successful. and when you have a band like, I mean, my example is always Primordial. I mean, a band that sort of, they rose 10 years ago, but they've been at it since 87. They've been doing this. I mean, you can never say, oh yeah, Alan and his boys, they really, fuck, they made it big. Yeah, but you have no idea how much hard work they put in there. I mean,
No.
Imagine how rich he would have been if he would have invested that time in stock exchange, or building something and selling it to people, instead investing it in art and some, a vision. And for every Alan, the singer of Primordial, there are at least 10 more that never made it, even though working equally hard. So I mean, and one of the problems is that we are too bad at the network that used to be in the early 90s, where Entomb, Dismember, and all these bands were collaborating. Today it's like this cutthroat thing where you try to get ahead of each other, and I think it's stupid, because I think there are enough listeners out there, so we're not competing per se in that way.
No, and I completely agree with you there. I mean, I try and push other bands from Stockholm that I know and that I like. Like, I mean, I always try and push a little bit extra for bands like Diabolical, NETHERBIRD.
That other band, I don't like those guys.
No, and like Wormwood, bands that I think are really, really good, that people should really check out. And because just because you like NETHERBIRD doesn't mean that you can't like Diabolical or Wormwood, or something like that.
So far, I never met a person who's like, yeah, I liked your band until I started like Zornheym, because then I couldn't fit your band anymore, so I stopped liking you.
Yeah, especially since Zornheym aren't the fastest band on releasing album, because we're so stubborn on using real instruments and instruments that we can't play. So we have to outsource it on other people, and we have to stand there with the hat in the hand and be like, maybe you could help us out here. So I mean, there's a lot of time for people to check out great bands in between our releases.
Yeah, but definitely, and this is the thing. I remember so vividly. I was 17 or 16, 17. I was in Bergslagen, and I was at Bergslagsrocken in Fagersta, and Napalm Death were playing, but they were on tour with Dismember, and Dismember were not on the bill. But after half of the Napalm Death set, they walked off stage, and Dismember walked on and played their set, even though they're not billed on the festival, because they were touring together and they were helping each other out. So I was standing. Yeah, I mean, you don't see that happening today, but I think it's the right way of doing it. You're out touring with your friends, they're not on the bill, so you share the fucking stage time because you decide to do that. And I think that's camaraderie in a really cool sense, because the fans didn't lose. Well, yeah, sure, we lost half the Napalm concert, but we gained half of a Dismember concert. That was really cool.
Yeah, and that concert is probably legendary today. You know, it must have been when they were starting up.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, that was, you know, in the really early days. I still think Napalm Death are, you know, that type of guys. I'm sure Dismember are as well, but I mean, today it's so much about success, and success is such a dangerous scale, because there is no limit to how much success bands can have. Of course, there's a limit to how many albums can be sold in this world, but there is not a limit to how many bands a person can like if they're all good and all worth it. And I just have to say hello, Rika. Primordial is, and she likes Primordial. Yes, we fucking like them too. Fucking talented people. And
yeah, I actually did a thing. We were playing on a festival. This was back in 2012 or 13, and Insomnium, they were playing on the same festival, and their bass player, because at that time I was playing bass, their bass player's bass had broken during the flight. You know, because the flights. Yeah, because of flights. And, you know, no band wanted to lend out their bass. And our front of house guy, Chris, he apparently knew them. So he asked me, like, I mean, this guy's bass broke and they're going to go on stage. Would you mind lending your bass out? And I actually took a chance, and I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I wanted them to play their gig. So the only thing I asked for, please don't change the tuning, because, you know, then something weird can happen. And I've always played, when I've been playing bass, on a 4-string, but I'm using the B string, E string, A string, and D string.
Yeah, so it's like a 5-string bass, but only the top 4 strings.
Yeah, because I don't shred that much on bass. And I remember that when I got the bass back, I got like a bottle of booze and this note saying, you know, you saved our gig today. And I mean, that was one of the highlights on that festival, that, you know, I saved their ass, at least the bass player's ass.
And not only his ass, but also all their fans.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the stuff, I mean, most people don't know what goes on, you know, behind the stage, but it's not glamorous, and it's not, you know, it's not 1,000 really brand new nice instruments there. You're just happy if your bass is not broken when you pack it up, and if it's broken, you're gonna have a problem, unless, of course, you are Tom Araya and Slayer. Then somebody will give you his bass. But I mean, the rest of us, we always have to beg. You know, fuck. You know, duct tape to, you know, get your shit together, and then you go up there
Yeah.
and you pretend that you're glamorous and successful, but in truth you're just trying to beat the odds one more night to deliver the metal to the people. That's a nice story. But we're gonna round it up pretty soon, but I'm gonna bother you a little bit more because I think it's always interesting when people who have, you know, more than one string on their guitar. You do other music as well. Can't you just tell us a little bit about Dick and Misto, but also Active Dödshjälp, just, you know, slightly?
Yeah, I can start with Active Dödshjälp. It's actually it started as a band back in 2003, 2004, and when I discovered like crust punk, like really aggressive punk, and I was like really blown away about it, and I figured that I really have to play this. So I put together a band, and during that time I was studying at the university, and the guy that introduced the music to me, his name is Petter, and he's this great crustcore singer. So of course I drafted him, and we did like a really cool thing that we recorded and mixed our first demo tape in 6 hours.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, you know, eventually we have put up like 2 professional release demos and a 7-inch, and then the band kind of collapsed. You know, people were more interested in other stuff, but I kept working on it because it was during the same time that Skitsystem had released Stigmata, a great album. So I was really influenced about that, and then I wrote the first Active Dödshjälp full-length album that's called 448, and that was the first concept album that I did, and it's a concept album about suicide. And then that lineup split up as well, and I actually joined forces with Robert Karlsson of Scar Symmetry, and we wrote and recorded the second full-length album, and we did split with the Passiv Dödshjälp, and we recorded some songs for different compilations and stuff like that. And I recorded that's the only album that I recorded everything myself, and I did it in my own home studio. And that album, Men allting har ett slut, really taught me a lot about how to produce, because, you know, I was writing the songs and recording them at the same time, and I really worked my ass off. Yeah, now the fog is consuming you. Yeah, and I think I worked on that album for like half a year or something like that, and really worked on my producing skills. And yeah, and right now we're actually I took the opportunity to record a new track. Actually, before I moved here to Stockholm to work professionally with music, I had written the third album for Active Dödshjälp, but that never got around to be recorded. So I have a shit ton of songs that are sitting on my computer, and I took one of them and asked Steve, the drummer of Zornheym, to just smash it in. And I've nailed down the guitars now, so hopefully we're going to release at least one new song next year or this year or sometime. And yeah,
Cool.
Is that enough?
It is enough. I mean, no, it's not enough. It's never enough. But you can send me some links, and I will post it in the event, and
Yeah.
people can, dig, because I think it's also. I mean, I come from like a punk crust background myself, so I mean, I think that stuff is severely brutal, actually, and I think it's an interesting way of finding inspiration also to do black metal or whatever. I mean, you can find so much in this primitive expression.
I think we've evolved more into some sort of hardcore with metal influences nowadays, because I felt that that really primal and brutal crust core, we kind of did that on the first two demos and the first 7-inch, and then I felt like I can't really take this any further, because I've done all all the different chords and stuff now. So instead I evolved it into something else.
Yeah, I mean, that is fine, and that is how it can turn out. I mean, it's like doing stoner rock. You can only do that many albums based on the chord progressions of Black Sabbath. In the end, you have to input something else. But to round things up, tell me a little bit about the things you do with Dick and the Misto thingy.
Yeah, actually, Dick and I met when I was 15 years old. And he actually started singing in my death metal band at that time. And it started with that he was going to help us out with recordings, and then we didn't have a singer. So then, of course, he offered to sing. Which he can growl pretty cool, I think.
Of course he can. He's a really good singer, by the way.
Yeah, I really like his voice. So he actually drafted parts of the death metal band, because he's actually a singer-songwriter to begin with. That's like heavily based in the Swedish prog era, not progressive music like that, but the Swedish prog. I don't know what you're supposed to call it in English. So we started playing his songs, and we became his backup band. And then he went off on some different adventure. He actually won a reality TV series called Baren. And
he did, right?
Yeah, he did. And we actually went up there and played in Swedish TV when I was 18, and took the most expensive cab ride in my life from Stockholm to Finspång.
That's a long ride, and
that's
cabs are expensive in Sweden, so that's
yeah. But Strix television, they paid for it, so all was good. But and then after a while, that he started releasing albums with a Swedish punk label called Bird Nest, and he did some stuff with people from the reality series, and they went on tours and stuff like that. And then eventually we did an album on that same label, but then we called ourselves Lucidar. So it was Dick Lundberg and Lucidar. And eventually, people moved and they started studying. So it was only me and him left. And then we did some crazy projects with we were recording new interpretations of the Swedish royal bard called Michael Bellman, and we recorded it in this heavy, distorted noise / singer-songwriter with metal over it, and it just became this completely underground album. You know, it's never going to take off because it's so weird, and we were drunk a lot of the time when we're recording it, and it was so weird. So eventually, you know, we were like, yeah, maybe we should go back and do something more simple. And then I took the moniker of Mistro. That means mistrust in English, and we did an album back in maybe 2010, I think. That's called Världen är trasig, allt har gått sönder. And that was around the era when record stores were starting to go out of business. So we actually had this great promotion plan. We had like set up with different record chains, record stores. We were going there, playing and everything. And then, you know, we had done Nyköping and Norrköping, and we were supposed to go to Eskilstuna in Stockholm. And then the weekend after we have started the tour, that whole business, they went out of business. It was actually a CD chain called Skivlagret they just collapsed. And that kind of, you know, took the breath out of us. We because we were doing really good during those shows, and we sold actually quite a lot of albums once we were playing in the record stores, and we were actually playing some other shows as well. But after that, we went back to the studio and started recording some new stuff. And eventually, when we found like the perfect formula, where I'm taking the producing role and playing most of the instruments, and he's focusing on mixing, writing lyrics, and you know, doing the vocal parts, we found like this great way of working together. And I actually think we found this pretty unique sound as well. And we released like the last single in 2014 that's called Klagosång from Nephente, I think.
Like Lamentations from Nephente, I would say.
Then after that, I started working with Zornheym, and Dick just went into a very unproductive period of his time. So after that, we had like a shit ton of songs that weren't finished, that we had been working on for several years. And recently we started working on it again. And I think musically you could place it's some, you know, it's some Swedish folk music, and then you sprinkle some singer-songwriter on it, and a little bit of punk, I guess, and and something else. and it's pretty guitar orientated because I like playing guitar. And it has some really fine Swedish lyrics, because I think Dick is a very good lyricist. He is.
And a really good singer, really good. I mean,
so we went back and did re-recorded one of our interpretations of the royal bard of Sweden, called Mikael Bellman, and we released our first single in like 6 years, like 2 weeks ago or something like that. And I'm really proud of how that song turned out, because I still think we're on the right track with our sound. And we're working on a new single now that we're hopefully going to release during the summer or something like that. I'm a little bit chaotic in my head when I'm in a situation like this. So I don't know if you understood anything or if I went too much into detail.
No, I understand everything. And the beauty of this is that people can always go back, and we'll always make sure also to post links, because thing is that you do stuff in Zornheym and people appreciate that. But just like every musician, you have so many other strains where you pull your energy from. May it be crust punk or may it be singer-songwriting. And I think the beauty is if people find Zornheym interesting, they might also find tones in what you do in Zornheym also through these other projects. I sincerely believe that. So I'm quite happy that you take time to elaborate on it. The reason why I look perplexed is because I'm trying to also sort of guide this transmission, and I'm not succeeding so well. Because fucking Facebook, yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to have a live stream, but it is. But in any case, Thomas, or Zorn, or both. It's good to finally have met you. It's been a while. And you're keeping busy with music, which is the most important thing. Hopefully, a few more people have found your art through this live stream, and many, many more people will do it when we post it, for review later on, because most people watch it afterwards anyway. But thank you so much for taking time. Best of luck with everything, actually. And I think it's vital to keep various avenues open. So I mean, Zornheym will always be your priority, I suppose, but also it's cool to see that you're still doing other stuff, because I think it enriches us as musicians to also delve into other genres, because music is so much more than just our main focus, whatever.
Yeah, and I think that the main thing there is that I have a lot of energy and a lot of music inside me. So usually when people can't focus, maybe other people that I'm working with, they are like, maybe we should take a few days break now to the music still echoes in my head, and I need to get it out. So then I usually pull up a thread with another project, and I can spill it out there.
It totally makes sense, and this is it's the same reality as NETHERBIRD. I mean, normally we keep busy with our stuff, but I mean, I have my side project, so does Bismarck, so does all of the other guys, and this is also why we never pest each other too much, because when it gets too intense, we do something else. We keep busy, but on our own terms all the time. So I think it makes a lot of sense. But best of luck with everything. Thank you for dropping by, and see you soon for a beer in real life, sir.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see you again, because even though we don't hang out that much, I think you're a really great friend, and I miss hanging with you. And it's funny because my sambo, my girlfriend is like, yeah, but I've never met that guy. Yeah, but to me, he's a close friend.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
in
like,
a Swedish way.
Yeah, we are
but
friends, but we
mutual.
don't see each other. Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't revise my friendship that often. I mean, if I like people, I like people, and I do that regardless. And I see all my relations with all my friends, even if they don't even like each other, I see them as lifelong. And I mean, so I'm never in a hurry. We'll meet when we meet. But we met now, and for that I'm grateful.
Me
Take
too.
care, my friend.
Take care, man.
See ya.
See ya.